A product can be well designed, well made, and still fail. Not because the fabric was bad, not because the fit was bad, not because the idea had no potential, but because it was built for the wrong customer, in the wrong market, in the wrong assumptions. And this is the part that most founders miss. A good product only is good if it makes sense for the market that you're trying to sell it in. A lot of sportswear entrepreneurs ask the wrong question. They ask, is this a good product? Versus asking, is this a good product for this customer in this market at this price point? Because a product can work perfectly in Los Angeles but fail miserably in London. A product can work perfectly for a yoga customer but fail for a Pilates customer. It can work for indoor training but fail in outdoor training. Why a good product can perform well in one market versus outperform or underperform in another market is exactly what we're going to be discussing in today's episode, and how to catch it before you spend money on sampling, producing, and marketing something that your customer ultimately doesn't want. So without further ado, my name is Shadi Adada. I'm the co-founder and creative director of FittDesign, the world's first sportswear design agency. Over the last 10 years, we have worked with literally thousands of brands to go from an idea to a physical product in under 30 days. So if you've been wondering how to create a great product that matches the needs of your market, this is the episode for you. Number one, we have to understand that a product is not good in general. It's good for a very specific use case scenario. And this is the first thing that customers will understand, that a good product isn't a universal label. A good running short is not the same as a good gym short. A good paddle shirt is not the same as a good lifestyle shirt. A good combat sports compression top is not the same as a good Pilates set. Each one has a different job. They have different materials, different movement, different sweat expectations, different movement, different mobility requirements, different customer psychology. Customers are requiring different things from the same product. This is why the brands that start out specific, they know who their market is, they know who their customer is, are often easier to understand in the end. Venom is a phenomenal example because they are deeply rooted in the martial arts space, and that aggressive connotation shows itself very clearly in their products. Although Venom offer leggings, a Pilates customer with their more softer aesthetic may not need the compression, the sharp angular lines, and the designs of a Venom top. This is the lesson that founders always need to learn. You need to start off with a product that has a clear job. If you just say we're making activewear, you're failing because there's no specificity and it's way too broad. Instead, you might say something along the lines of, this is for runners who train outdoors in the heat, or this is for lifters who want structure for their garments without restriction. The more specific use case, the more easy it is for customers to understand what the product needs to do. And the problem is that when founders design a product that simply looks nice, but they cannot answer the fundamental question of what exact situation is this product built for. If you cannot answer that clearly, the product might be good, but it's probably not market ready at the moment. Number two is that your customer's activity matters way more to the end use than the demographic. A lot of founders define their customer by saying that my customer is a woman who lives an active lifestyle and is between the ages of 18 and 35. That sounds like a customer. Ultimately, it's not. A real customer is a 25-year-old woman who runs 10K 10 times a week. That kind of customer is very different than a 25-year-old woman that goes to Pilates. Although they both are within the age range that you've specified and they both live an active lifestyle, they both have very different needs and they react to sportswear in a very different way. One may care for sweat control, moisture wicking, pockets, functionality, and another might want something that is comfortable, physical, allows for movement, but still looks good. This is why activity matters way more than demographic. Even though both customers have the same age, they both live active lifestyles, but they ultimately need different products. You can see how serious this is when you look at a Dick's Sporting Goods, for example. When you enter into the store, you are not just bombarded with all types of sports in one place. The store is extremely well laid out. You have your winter sports, your sea sports, you have your MMA, you have your boxing, your jiu-jitsu in one section, you have your running, you have each sport and each activity is segmented by itself, and almost the physical retail stand and how it's laid out speaks to that customer. You might get a more aggressive build for MMA versus you might get a softer look for the Pilates section. Number three is that your local culture also changes drastically what feels wearable. A product can be technically right, but culturally it can be increasingly wrong. And this is huge because founders look at silhouettes that are working in the major city centers like Paris, like Los Angeles, like New York, but they are copying the wrong things. They're copying the colors, the styling, the references from these global brands, without asking whether or not their local customer would actually wear that product in public. Would they be socially accepted? In some markets, tighter fits are way normal. In others, customers want more coverage. In some markets, branding is loud, bright, and vibrant. In other markets, customers want something simpler. Some markets are very easy to have crop tops. Other markets, they prefer something that's much more modest. In some markets, you tend to show a lot more skin. In other markets, layering is essential because of the climate. None of these are wrong, but they do reflect the market realities. And Reuters specifically looks at China and says, in China, the brands that are tying into the identity of the customer are outperforming the ones that don't. Because in China, your sports isn't just a way that you live a healthy lifestyle. It is a signifier of your social standing, what you do, who you are. And a lot of young Chinese people use sports as a way to connect and to create communities. So that's why the brands that really excel in targeting a niche in a community like Lululemon, Hoka, On, and Alo are outperforming the brands that are much more generic like Nike and Adidas. This is a very important example because customer is not only asking the question, is this fabric good? They're asking themselves, does this fit the way that people like me live? Would I feel confident wearing this product around my friends? Does this brand make sense in my city, in my gym, in my studio, in my routine? So before you copy a global reference, you must ask, when my local customer wears this outside the house, would they feel comfortable? Would this feel natural in their gym, in their studio? Does the silhouette match their comfort level? Does the styling feel current here or only somewhere else? If the product looks good globally but feels awkward locally, then it's not the right product for your market. Next up, a good product can fail if the brand is too early or too late to the market. And this is where timing matters fundamentally. Sometimes a product is good, but the customer is not yet ready for it. Perhaps they are not partaking in that kind of activity. Let's look back at the mid-2010s where paddle was only beginning to take over. Paddle only just made its way to some of the regions of the world. It had migrated from Europe and from South America into regions like GCC. If paddle was being pushed heavy in the mid-2010s in the GCC, a great paddle short would still not make sense. For example, a very technical product as well can perform exceptionally well in a more mature market where customers have been buying sportswear for a long time, and way less in a market where customers want something much more simple. A very fashion-forward product can work well in a mature market, again, where customers have bought many sportswear, but it can underperform in a market where customers are only now building up their sportswear wardrobe, where they still need their plain white t-shirts and their black leggings. This is where understanding how to position your product and when to launch it is key. For founders, the practical question is my product moving ahead of my customer, behind my customer, or is it exactly where my customer is? You do not always need to be first or want to be first, but you want to be understandable at the right moment where customers can understand why you're offering the product you are. Last but not least, what is the market fit test that you can before you sample? So here's the clear path that I personally would recommend before you put money into sampling. First, you need to define the market properly. Don't just say we're selling to active people. Define the sport, the location, the price range, the current alternatives, the customer's routine, and the exact problem that your solution solves. Second, you need to map what the customer already wears. Look at what they wear in the gym, on the court, the studio, when traveling, after training, on social media. Don't only look at what they say they like. Look at what they buy on repeat. Third, run a competitor check. Ask yourself, what does the customer buy instead of my product? What is the cheaper option? What is the more premium option? What is the trusted option? What is the easier option? What is the more accessible option? Your product is competing against all of those. Fourth, you need to test the product promise before you test the actual physical sample. For example, you might ask a customer, a lighter paddle short that's designed for movement, coverage, and post-game wear, does this appeal to you? Then ask them, would you wear this? Where would you wear it? What would you compare it to? What price would feel fair or justified for a product like this? What would stop you from buying it? And then fifth, test it in the actual environment. If the product is for hot outdoor running, test it outdoors in the heat. If it's for paddle, test movement, sitting, sweating, and actual social wear after the match. If it's for lifting, test range of motion, fabric recovery, shoulder fit, waistband stability. Do not validate the right sportswear in the wrong environment. Sixth, and lastly, is separate what to keep, what to adapt, and what to throw away. You need to keep what creates real world value. You need to remove what simply works in another market but doesn't work in yours. And you need to adapt what depends on the local climate, the local culture, and the local price requirements. This is what creates a great product. If you guys want to learn how you can build a great product for a great market and understand the customer from the first time, then you can check the link in the description to apply to work with us one-on-one, and we can help you go from a vision to a physical product in under 30 days. We can literally get back to you within 5 minutes with a personalized production roadmap on what that would take. Guys, and I say this from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fit Design TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.